The Zarn Imperial fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sol's system with the quiet confidence of a civilization that had never lost a war. 900 warships unfurled across the void like a curtain of black steel, their hulls etched with the sigils of 100 conquered worlds. At the head of the formation, aboard the flagship Devourer of Stars, Fleet Admiral Threx Kalorn watched the blue-green dot on his tactical display and allowed himself a thin smile. "Primitive," he said. "No orbital defense grid. No fleet screen. They haven't even noticed us." Beside him, his tactical officer hesitated. "Admiral, our sensors are returning. Strange readings from the third planet. Energy signatures we cannot classify." "Superstition," Threx said. "Every backwater world has folklore about monsters in the dark. This one is called Earth. Scans show 7 billion soft-bodied primates with primitive fusion technology. We will take their homeworld intact and add another jewel to the Empire's crown." Far below, in a converted mountain bunker beneath the Rockies, Fleet Commander Orion Vasquez leaned back in his chair and cracked his knuckles. On the massive display before him, 900 red contacts bloomed like a rash across the system's edge. "Well," he said, "that's a lot of ships." 912, to be exact, replied Dr. Celera Chun, the system's architect who had spent the last 11 years designing exactly the kind of day this was about to become. She didn't look up from her console, her fingers dancing across 3 keyboards at once. Estimated troop capacity, 400 million. Estimated firepower, enough to crack a planet the size of Mars in half. And they think we don't know they're here. They think a lot of things, Celera said, and there was something almost sad in her voice. They think this is the first time. They think we're the primitives. Orion stood, walking to the great curved window that overlooked the launch bay, where humanity's true fleet waited in silence. Not the pitiful handful of orbital stations and lunar shipyards that any half-competent alien sensor sweep would have detected, but something else entirely. Something that had been built in secret for 3 decades, ever since the Kepler incident, when a scouting probe from a minor xenophobic empire had stumbled across Earth, taken one look at humanity's biosignatures, and fled without making contact, but not before its final transmission had been intercepted. They are not what they appear to be. Recommend total avoidance. No one on Earth had known what that meant at the time. They did now. "All stations report ready," said the bunker's AI, a calm synthetic voice humanity had nicknamed Atlas. "Humanity's defense grid is fully primed. Awaiting your order, Commander." Orion looked at Celera. She met his eyes and gave the smallest nod. "Let them come a little closer," Orion said. "Let them believe it, right up until the end." There's something almost merciful about that. Aboard the Devourer of Stars, Admiral Threx issued the order to advance. The Imperial fleet surged forward, crossing the outer system in a slow, stately procession meant to project overwhelming force, a tactic that had broken the will of 100 worlds before a single shot was fired. Ships that size, that number, that display of raw industrial might, were supposed to make defenders weep and surrender before the first missile ever launched. No response from the planet, the tactical officer reported. No fleet mobilization. No distress signals. No planetary shields active. "They don't even know how to be afraid," Threx murmured. "Prepare the invasion fleet. We take the capital first. Minimal casualties, maximum." "Admiral," the sensor officer's voice cracked. "I'm reading gravitational anomalies. Multiple. They're not on the planet. They're inside our formation." Threx frowned and turned to the viewport just as space itself seemed to fold. They called it the fold drive, though the scientists who built it privately admitted the name didn't capture what it actually did. Humanity had not spent 30 years building bigger guns. Humanity had spent 30 years learning to bend the geometry of local space, to fold a battleship from a hidden position on the far side of the moon into point-blank range of an enemy fleet in less time than it took an alien sensor array to register a single ping. 900 ships had crossed the outer system in stately formation. 200 human vessels arrived inside that formation in absolute silence. "Fire," Orion said. The weapons humanity had built were not larger than the Empire's. They were not more numerous. They were precise in a way that no empire built on conquest and terror had ever needed to be, because no empire built on conquest and terror had ever needed to fight an enemy who could see exactly where to strike. Every shot from the human fleet found a reactor core, a bridge, a weapons magazine, a hyperdrive coupling, strikes calculated down to the millisecond by an AI that had spent 3 decades doing nothing but studying exactly how the Devourer of Stars-class dreadnought was built, because humanity's first act after the Kepler incident had been to quietly, patiently, relentlessly gather every scrap of data on every alien power that might ever come calling. The Imperial fleet did not have time to raise shields. It did not have time to return fire. In the space of 41 seconds, 612 ships became debris fields, their reactors venting into the dark in silent blooms of white fire. Aboard the Devourer of Stars, alarms shrieked as Threx staggered against his command chair. Return fire. Return fire, damn you. We can't get a lock, Admiral. They're not. They're not where our sensors say they are. The readings keep shifting. On the tactical display, a single human vessel, smaller, sleeker, painted the deep matte black of a stealth cruiser, folded into existence directly off the flagship's bow. A hail frequency opened without so much as a request for permission. Orion's face appeared on the screen, calm, almost gentle. Behind him, Celera stood with arms crossed, watching the Imperial Admiral with an expression that held no hatred at all. Only a weary kind of recognition. The look of someone who had seen this exact scene play out in simulations 400 times and hoped, every single time, that it wouldn't have to happen for real. Fleet Admiral Threx Calorn, Orion said, you crossed into Sol's system with the intent to invade, occupy, and enslave the population of Earth. That intent was registered the moment you dropped out of hyperspace. We gave you the chance to leave. You didn't take it because you didn't know you'd been given one. This is impossible, Threx breathed. Your species has no shipyards capable of. Our scans showed nothing. Your scans showed what we wanted them to show, Celera said quietly. That's the thing about us, Admiral. We've spent our entire history being underestimated. By ourselves, by our own wars, by every threat we've ever faced. We got very, very good at surviving things that were supposed to end us. And every single time, we learned. We adapted. We built something better than what came before. Your monsters? Threx spat. No, Orion said, and for the first time something hard entered his voice. We're the species who washed your empire's records the moment we recovered a database from the Kepler probe. 47 worlds. 200 billion lives extinguished across 3,000 years so that Zarn could call itself an empire. We're not monsters, Admiral. We're just the first thing you've ever met that could actually stop you. Threx said nothing. On the display, the last handful of Imperial ships were folding away in a desperate, disorganized retreat, cut down one by strike craft that seemed to anticipate every vector before it was flown. Here is what happens now, Orion continued. You will surrender your flagship. Your crew will be treated according to the conventions your own empire signed and ignored 1,000 times, because we intend to be better than you, not the same as you. And you will carry a message back to whatever remains of your empire's command. What message? Threx's voice had gone hollow. Celera stepped forward, and when she spoke, her words carried to every surviving Zarn vessel still broadcasting in the system, and beyond, into the long dark where the message would travel for years before it reached its destination. Earth is not a conquest, she said. Earth was never undefended. It was waiting. Tell your empire. Tell every empire that hears this. Humanity does not start wars. But we have never, in our long and bloody history, lost one we were forced to finish. Come in peace, and you will find no better allies in this galaxy. Come as conquerors, and you will find only silence where your fleets used to be. The transmission ended. In the ruins of the Imperial fleet, drifting wreckage turned slowly in the light of a sun that had, for 30 years, watched over a species quietly preparing, not for war, but for the day war would come looking for them anyway. It had come. It had ended in less than a minute. And far below, on a blue-green world that had just, without most of its population ever knowing, survived an invasion before breakfast, the sun rose over the Rockies exactly as it always did.